Do you hate the thought of working past 55 or 60? Do you hate not being able to live the life you deserve today? Do you hate not knowing what your financial future looks like? It's time to stop doing what you hate. Here's your host, Mr. Harold Green.
Hello, everybody. This is Harold Green of Bright Tree Financial Group. Hopefully, you folks are having a fantastic day. I'm doing pretty good. I just wanted to reach out today and share a show with you folks, something I think is very serious. I think this is going to be one of my most important shows that I've done in a long time. It's a very, it's an emotional show. It's something that no one's really talking about right now. Research is going on in this area, but it's something that I wanted to talk to you folks about, as well as if you're a client and you're listening, I want you to take notes on this. And, if the shoe fits, even give my assistant Beverly a call and get on the schedule. But the title of today's show is Changing of the Guard. And one of the major questions is, have you ever thought about giving up control of the major components of your financial management? What does that even look like? Do you even have a complete financial system in place to begin with? Or, do you have just a couple of annuities, some insurance policies, some bank accounts, and you're calling that your financial system? And then can you get a system in place before it's too late? These are some very important questions I want you to kind of think about. And so without further ado, 1, 2, 3, let's get it. The first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to quote a study done by the National Council on Aging. Every single year, we have to go through anti-money laundering training. We also have to go through elder care abuse training as fiduciaries, and then also investment professionals and pretty much anyone who's in the financial industry. We have to understand and look for signs of elder abuse. And we have to report these things, because if we find these things and we do not, we can also be held liable. Now, according to them, estimates of elder financial abuse and fraud are costing older Americans from, $2.6 billion to $36 billion a year. And financial exploitation is reported at higher rates than emotional, physical, and even sexual abuse or neglect. I mean, this money thing is crazy. And you always hear these reports about elders being scammed. Someone called, I watched this movie, The Beekeeper Man, with I forgot that guy's name, but the lady had lost all of the money in a scam just because she couldn't figure out something out on her computer, and she needed to call tech support, and she got a hold of the wrong tech support, and the next thing you know, all the money's gone. You won't believe how many stories are true like that and happens like that every single day. You think you're logging into your Schwab account and you're logging into some fake website because you don't remember the link to get into your Schwab account. Next thing you know, you're giving them your passcode and they have everything. And thankfully, we have protocol in place where a lot of our clients don't request funds out of their own accounts and they don't move money on their own. So as a safety precaution, what they do is they call us and they say, hey, I need 20 grand or 50 grand or whatever it might be. We document that in our system. And so every time a client pulls money out or they put money in, that's documented in our system. And if they pull money out, we notate what it's for. Years ago, we had a client who pulled tons of money out of their life insurance policies. I mean, we're talking a lot of money. And then when the money ran out, they called us and said, hey, what did we use that money for? And back then, because it was life insurance and it was loans and stuff like that, we don't know what you do with the money. It's you take a loan and you buy whatever you want. And so what we decided when I became a fiduciary is we will track every single thing you request from us and we will write down what it's for. I know it seems like a little humbug, but we need to CYA on this kind of stuff because it's very important. And they ran out of money in those policies and they looked at us and said, did you guys take the money? We said, no, I don't have any access to transfer money from your life insurance policy to my bank account. That's not allowed. So the names on the checking account has to match the names on the life insurance policy. And if you do any kind of third party stuff, there's forms that need to be signed. It's intense in the financial industry, what we have to go through to make sure you folks are not being ripped off. But again, you're going to have to do your part. And that's why I titled today's show, The Changing of the Guard. You can look up that term and see what it means, but it basically means you passing on the baton And it's a very touchy subject. I'm going to also quote a study did by Stanford. I read this and it's very, very interesting. And it said that by the 2050, one fifth of the US population is projected to be over the age of 65. That's a lot of money. And more older people are responsible for managing their own finances than ever before. I mean, we are dealing with an aging population, and there's a lot of reasons for that. And so the other striking thing about this study was it says nearly 20% of Americans aged 65 or older have cognitive impairment, and nearly 10% have dementia. I mean, this is crazy. And one of the key points that I took away from this study was the fact that people have limited awareness of their mental health. And I always talk about this. I don't harp on or I don't make light of mental issues and things like that. We have to pay attention to our mental health. And where it has the biggest, most damaging impact is in terms of our finances. And I'm going to go through this thing a little bit. And we're going to talk about some of the things like handing off and so on and so forth. And so getting down into it, basically nearly 84% of people surveyed said they do or they would not want to give up financial control at the onset of cognitive decline. They would prefer to wait for a moment before they would completely lose the ability to manage their own money. Like, I'm like, what? Like, you know you're slipping. And it was, it's a term we call, you know, they caught me slipping, right? You're slipping. You're not on your game. You're losing a step. And this is all normal stuff, not making fun of this. And I'm not telling you this so that you say, hey, yeah, based on your great podcast show, I want to sign up with you as a client. No, that's not why we're doing this. The job here is to bring awareness, right? And so at some point, I would want you to find somebody to work with that you trust and that you can build that relationship while you're still cognitively, able to make decisions and to partner with that person because you are a team. But yet many of these people, they realize that delaying the transfer of control because they wouldn't even recognize their own decline. They won't even know. Like, you tell people, hey, this is what's going on. I see this going on with you. And a lot of people are in denial. And I talked about it in my last show, financial ignorance. We're talking about facts versus feelings. We're talking about facts versus feelings. And it's the number one thing that keeps people out of the 3%. Wouldn't it be a shame to get into 3% and then lose it all because of something crazy like this? Like we talked about get the money, keep the money, and this is a keep the money type of thing. All right. The other question is do you have somebody that can step in to help you if necessary? And, will you recognize that you need help before you make a costly mistake or get ripped off or get scammed, right? We're going to talk about some of the reasons why people don't want to give up control. One of the reasons is independence. We talk about taking away the keys to the car. And one of my clients told me a story about, one of their family members having the keys taken away. And, to them, they were still Michael Andretti. I mean, to them, they could drive a Formula One car to them, but to the people around them, they're like, yo, this is like crash derby here, dude. Like you're running into stuff, scratching up the car and you're good. No, you're not. When are you going to hurt somebody? When are you going to take somebody's life? Because you don't want to give up your independence. You don't want to give up your control. And one of the things I always talk about to my clients, they have Uber, they have Lyft, they have Charlie's Taxi, they got all these services, but you can't be cheap. You have to be willing to pay. And that's why we want to grow your wealth as best as we can, because guess what? Your kids may not be around to take you to the doctor, although it would be nice if they could, but you would want to have a safe ride there and a safe ride home, right? Going to the grocery store. Check this out. You may end up paying $2,000 or $3,000 a month for transportation cost when you're in your 70s and 80s because you can't drive no more. I want you to know that that's going to be okay. We do not want that to be a problem. Okay. Pride is another reason. A lot of people think they can do a better job than anybody else. How do you know that? How do you know you can do a better job than anyone else? Anyone else like who? Yeah, so let's say you want to give it to one of your kids to do. You might be able to do a better job than them. Are they a qualified investment advisor? Do they understand the market? Do they understand strategy in the market? if you're just buying and holding stocks, you're not really doing it better than anybody else. You're just simply buying and holding your positions. You're not actively trading. You're not managing a financial system. You're managing a couple of products or a couple of positions. I'm going to say that again. You're not managing a financial system. You are managing a couple of products or a couple of positions. It's not the same thing. Enjoyment, a lot of people enjoy managing their own finances. And I say that's a great thing. And so what I tell some of my other clients is, or some of the clients who want to keep their hands in the game, hey, look, you give me the big money and then you take some of this money and then you go knock yourself out. I told a client that the other day. I said, you're going to give me the bulk of this money of your retirement, but they wanted to keep 100,000, on the side. I said, that's fine. And they said they wanted to learn investing. I said, that's all great, but you're not going to be able to do it at the speed that we're doing it because you're just not up on the research game. That's a lot of work. And from what I understand, you have a lot of things going on in your retirement life that's not going to allow you to be a part of this process. So guess what you're going to do? You're going to sit the money over there. You're going to put it in something safe and it's not going to keep up inflation. However, we're talking facts over feelings here. However, they chose to go with something that they felt. And I said, okay, fine. Then I'm just going to be more aggressive on my side because I know you're not going to keep up with inflation. You can learn. And I'd said, start with a small amount of that 100,000 and just knock yourself out. Count that as your tuition. Okay. We're talking about facts versus feelings here. Okay. I don't want you out there driving longer than you should because you didn't earn enough money in your portfolio to hire Uber when you're 80 years old. I mean, this doesn't make sense to me. Avoidance. A lot of times people don't want to bring up the topic with their children because number one, you wouldn't want them meddling. And number two, you wouldn't want them sitting there counting their inheritance like, yo, mom, dad got like 10 million. Shoot, let's take these trips. Let's buy this car. Let's do all these stupid things because I know when mom and dad die, we're going to get like a chunk of money over here and that's going to be our retirement. Some people think that way. Now, is there anything wrong with it? It just kind of depends on how you handle it. If you're using your assets and you're just burning them up because your mom and dad, they're going to die and leave you money. I mean, there's something to be said about that. I talk to my clients all the time about, look, you want to enjoy things with your children while they're alive and you want to start having these conversations. So I'm going to get into like 10 points here in a second that'll help you understand how to properly change the guard here and do a proper handoff to whoever's next without damaging what you already have in place. Because I tell you this, when I see clients pass away, if their kids have a relationship with me, we carry on in the same vein. We carry on. They don't take the money and give it to some guy that didn't help them grow it. And now they're just going to sit on it and be glad that somebody left them the money. And then they're going to go do stupid stuff with it. And they don't have a system. So therefore, when you don't have a system for wealth, guess what happens? Abuse becomes inevitable. I'm going to say that again. When you don't have a system to handle wealth, abuse becomes inevitable. Inevitable. You can take that to the bank. All right. So here's another thing that the researchers found. They found that people were willing to pay money to optimize the timing of the changing of the guard. And they said they would be willing to pay like 50,000 to roughly 100,000 or more to make sure this happens the right way. But my thing is this, if you're working with a fiduciary advisory firm or a good team of people from the very beginning, they're going to help you with that process. And you don't have to pay that much in fees for the changing of the guard because the changing of the guard will already have been built in to your financial plan at some point down the road. And I tell my clients, at some point, we're going to be talking about the next generation, your kids, when to bring them in here. We don't need to tell them everything, but they need to understand how the system works because they can carry on. And that's how the rich get richer. They carry on in the same system that they inherited. They don't change it and do anything stupid with it because as soon as they do, it's like winning the lottery and it can all be gone. It's very important. Now, one of the things you're going to start seeing down the road is you're going to start seeing financial institutions design tests or procedures to make sure they can identify signs of cognitive decline. And me and Beverly, we do this in our office. She'll say, hey, I just talked to so-and-so. They asked me the same thing they asked me last time. I say, okay, make sure you notate that. Every time we get a situation like that, we're notating that. We're writing that down and it's in the client's system. And then they'll say, yeah, they called again, and this is what they were asking. Okay, that's being notated. And after so many of those, what's going to happen is I'm going to reach out to that client and say, look, we notice a pattern here. Is everything okay? Some clients have even said, look, this is what's going on with me. And I said, okay, what's the plan, right? What is the plan? What do we do? So what eventually we want to do is make sure that we're doing with this our clients that are doing this with our clients that are approaching 65 and 70. You're still good. You're still, you're not slipping yet. You might be slipping a little bit. Everybody has senior moments, but that's very different than just outright putting an extra zero. Say you want to, you want to donate $5 and you give 500. Boom. That's already on your credit card. That's gone. That's very different. And so I want to talk to you about 10 steps to a solid handoff. Number one, you got to create a plan that covers all your basic living expenses and big ticket items. All these things have to be accounted for. Big ticket items can be your AC breaks down. That's a big ticket item. Your car breaks down. That's a big ticket item. Vacation, that's a big ticket item. And then number two, designate which assets in your portfolio will be used to cover these things. And we do that in our e-money system where we can designate what asset is going to be used to cover whatever comes up. And one of the things that we find is people always underestimate what their future expenses are going to be. It's just a knee-jerk reaction. It's, I'm not going to need that much. I don't think I'm going to use that much. And my thing is, look, Murphy's Law, things that can happen normally do happen. So therefore you have to have a plan for them. Hope and wish, it ain't a plan. You have to plan an actual solid plan. Okay. Number three, understand the investment strategies being implemented to fund your objectives. This is very important. Some clients say, I don't need to know what you're doing. Just do your thing and make me money and send me money. And that's it. No, you don't have to know how to do what I do, but we want you to understand what it is that's being done. Because a lot of seniors, they have no idea. Hey, do you know what this guy's done? I don't know what he's doing over there. How long have you been working with him? I don't know. I've been working with him for 30 years. Is everything good over there? Everything looks okay. I haven't been ripped off yet. That's no bueno. Okay. That's not good. Number four, create a system of reviewing the financial plan and investment performance every 6 months to a year. This is very important. We do this with our clients a lot. We always make sure they know what's going on. We're prying and we're probing to see if there's anything crazy going on in their system. We knew someone years ago, and they've since passed on and gone on. And they didn't have any family members that they trusted. So someone stepped in, and this person had a lot of money. But the family member that stepped in was supposed to be caring for them. They were actually caring for themselves and helping themselves to this elderly person's bank account. And they couldn't recover any of that money because it had been used for drugs and all of that. Nothing can be done. So this, thankfully, they still had a house left and they were able to sell that and get elder care in a nice care facility, along with pension money and Social Security money and stuff like that. That was a sad story because we personally knew this person, and it kind of broke my heart when I found out what was happening. And, a lot of times, if you just have had a fiduciary advisor or a good investment manager or somebody on your team watching over stuff, even if you have to pay the fees, this is why elder care abuse is such a big deal. We talk about this all the time. People don't want to pay fees. They don't want to pay for anything. Now you're looking at $36 billion, between $2.6 billion and $36 billion being stolen from you every single year just because of 1 or 2% in investment fees, or $2,500 to create a financial plan, or $500, $600, $700 a year to review your financial plan. It's insane. It is insane. Number five, have a written plan that shows the inflows and outflows along with the financial projections. Again, this is simple financial management. This is like money 101. Things that we know we should do, but we don't. Number six, store the plan in a place that's easily accessible, a safe deposit box. Store it on Google Drive and give access to a trusted family member. That's what I do with my kids. Both of my kids have access to all the workings of our financial system. They have access to our documents. They have access to our trust account. They have our estate plan. They know who the attorneys are. They know who to contact in the event that something happens. All they need to do is log into that Google Drive, type in their password, and boom, they have access to everything, just in case something crazy happens to my wife and I, and we're traveling at the same time. My kids have access to this stuff. And I've talked to them about it, and we've written up our trust and things like that. Do we have a little bit more work to do on this? Yes, but it's worth to mention. Now, also have a long-term care plan in place that will ensure your needs and wishes are covered. A lot of my clients are going to be able to self-insure. I just talked about this with a client the other day. Somebody tried to pitch them some kind of long-term care life insurance policy, and they wanted them to cash out the current policy that they have, cash in some of their investments, and then buy this life insurance or annuity long-term care plan or whatever. I think it would have gave them something like $500,000. And I told them, I said, you know what? Whether you do this or not, you're still going to come up short. We got $500,000 sitting here right now in your intermediate investment account. $500,000 right now sitting in your intermediate investment account. All we have to do is keep watching this investment account, and all we need to do is get roughly 10% on this investment account every single year, and you're going to be okay in 10 years. And they said, okay, that makes sense. Why don't we just go stick with the plan that we already have in place? And again, I'm not knocking anybody, but since then, this has been about 2 months ago? We had about $500,000 in that account. And 2 months ago, I think it was April sometime, this account now has $600,000 in it. We're up $100,000 in 2 months just because of the investment choices. They're already at $600,000. So I had estimated them having about $1 million in 10 years in this account. And if we keep on track, they'll have that. Now, investments do carry risk of loss. Go do your due diligence. Past performance is no guarantee of future results. I'm not saying not to have a long-term care policy. I'm saying that at some point you're going to have to self-insure, and it doesn't make sense to be paying premiums like that. All right. Number 8, have an estate plan in place that allows for the transfer of certain assets while you are alive and have cognitive ability. A lot of times we want to put gifting in place. Gifting allows you to get these assets out of your estate ahead of time so that you don't have to worry about it when you pass away. You also have control over the transfer of the assets while you're alive, how the money is being spent while you're alive. You have input while you are alive. Number 9, have ongoing discussions with your loved ones, right? Not necessarily telling the kids about the assets, but giving them an idea of how your financial plan is built and how it works. Financial illiteracy is huge in America. No one is really talking about a plan. They talk about what hot stocks to buy, what hot life insurance products to buy, what hot real estate program is out there, what hot savings yield is out there. This is all I hear all the time. I don't really hear anything about a solid plan that has a step-by-step A, B, C, and D. Cash flow management, income generation, cash reserve systems. We don't hear about stuff like that. Number 10, once you begin noticing signs of decline, I want you to have a time frame of when you like your fiduciary to begin contacting your executors or the person stepping in. Now, we had this happen before, probably a couple of times, where I've worked with a client. They went into mental decline. Their kids had to step in and begin managing things. And so what was neat about this is because they still had cognitive decline, we could change their trust or recommend certain changes in their trust. One client just totally eliminated one of their kids out of the whole entire trust. They say, Harold, this kid is a scumbag. I can't believe they just did this to me. We can't believe they just did this. I'm cutting them off for good. And I said, you know what? If that suits you and that's what you want to do, you need to go sit down and work with the attorney and understand what's going on. So the attorney, I gave him the attorney's number, explained to the attorney what was going on. I said, okay, this cannot look like one kid. It's making you cut out the other kid. You're going to have to explain everything to the attorney. And the attorney was okay with it, signed off on it. So now one kid is not going to get nothing. Unfortunately, well, that happens in families all the time. The goal is to have your fiduciary explain your system and also give them an idea of what their role is going to be in assisting in the safe transfer of control. They're also going to get an understanding of what the prudent man rule is. When you come in and you're going to be helping manage your parents' finances, I'm going to tell you stuff like, yo, I don't care what your siblings say. They're not getting any money until mom and dad dies. Well, what if they want money now? What if they need money now? I said, if you end up giving them money out of your parents' assets before they die and the parents don't have enough to cover, you can be sued for violating your role as the executor. Your job is to make sure those assets are being used for their care, not to help your siblings or even help yourself. Now, we're talking about this because I believe it's going to help prevent crazy things like executors charging family members crazy fees to help with small things like, I painted the house. So, I can take 20 grand because I helped painted the house. It only costs like 5,000 to paint the house. Senior fraud is really a big issue, and the right protocols and have the right plans in place, we can help prevent many of the sad stories that you hear about. And we want to make sure that you are not a victim. So if this is you're getting to that point where you're not sure who you need to help, like you need on your team, give us a call, go through the show notes, go through the process, get on the schedule, and make sure that you're not going to be a victim of this 2.6 billion and 36 billion. Because again, with over 1/5 of the people in the country by 2050 being 65 or older, and knowing that 20% of those people have like mental decline, and with AI and all of these fake, oh God, I don't want to keep harping on this, but you want to make sure that your system is locked down. So get on the calendar, make sure you're not going to be a victim. Make sure you're doing everything you can to set yourself up ahead of time. All right, thanks for tuning in to today's show. And until next time, everybody, 1, 2, 3, let's get it, even if you don't feel like it.
This is thepodcastfactory.com.